Welcome to a new episode of the City Gents. You got King Javon here. You got my co-host.
Santiago. He still calling himself king, y'all. He still call himself king.
You see how I hope y'all see how I just got quiet and I was just staring at him if you're watching the YouTube, because I'm just baffled that this man is not speaking Spanish, but then got something to say about me being addressed as king. I am a king.
I mean, kings don't gotta call themselves kings though,
Hey,
bruh.
hey, bro, you just now starting this, man. I don't know. You must have been listening to Eric, man.
Nah, bruh. I haven't called you. Check the episodes. I haven't called you king in like 5 episodes,
Yeah,
bruh.
but that's because you became disrespectful.
This was you ain't my king.
Hey, but you was calling me king at one point. Anyway,
No, I'll call you a king,
uh,
not the king.
no,
So I don't call you that at all, bruh. You
but
know,
anywho, we're not even gonna get into that right now. That's not what the episode even about, man. How you doing though, brother?
I'm good, bruh. Just transitioning. Got a lot of things in the pipeline happening. I'll be in LA, later this month for my clothing line and stuff. So just really hitting the ball, rolling with that because, that drop shipping just, it didn't work for me. It might work for other people, with respect to that, but the profit margin and, you know, them taking, most of the money and everything and us not having control over the product the way we want to wasn't something I was cool with. You feel me? So my business partner and our investor, we shut that stuff down and we just been rebuilding, getting our own inventory. So we be ready to go come March, April.
Yo, that's what's up. That's what's up. How's everything else going?
Bro, everything else is just such a blur right now, man. You can see I'm trying to hit the gym a little bit, and everything like that, getting my health in order and stuff like that, just navigating the pipeline, after, having to cut somebody off the ship, you feel me?
Yeah, sometimes it'd be like that, man. Me myself, I feel like things have been smooth. I mean, I've really just been having to get back to taking out time for myself. I think I encourage everyone to do that. Make sure you take time for yourself. And when you are rebranding, like this man's talking about with his own business, that takes a lot of stress. And you can be rebranding yourself a lot of times. And just taking the time out to make sure that you are evaluating yourself, your goals, and everything like that is kind of where I've been at. So everything been smooth though, otherwise for me.
Yeah, and that's hard to really sit back and, not just necessarily with a clothing line, but with anything in life when you have to take a few step backs. Whereas that moving back in with your folks, your people, and you like 28, 29, even 30 for some people, even past 30 for some. Whether that's taking a job that you would really want. Let's say you worked in
Yeah.
the corporate sector and something happened and you had to work as a barista at Starbucks. Nothing wrong with that. Everybody has to start somewhere,
Mhm.
but you're used to a certain type of environment. And now that environment is shifted because, whether it be the pandemic or what it was, you had to start over. So for a lot of people, myself included, it's just mad difficult. But taking that first step really is the biggest step because once you go there, just don't look back. Don't look at your rearview mirror for what.
Yeah, that's how it be sometimes. You never know. I also think it's sometimes more difficult when you always don't have the support of some people. Like even when you're trying to rebuild yourself or um, especially when you're going through the steps of the process and you feel like people are supposed to support you and you feel like it's more disrespect than respect. Have you ever experienced like, disrespect while you're trying to build yourself, brother? Like,
Yeah, for sure, bro. I think we all have indifferent, facet, because respect to an extent is subjective for a lot of people. You could have, people who think just because they're 20 years older than you that they deserve a certain level of respect, but they talk to you any type of way. And that pertains more to the job setting or even some people in your family. It's different from getting that tough love and then them just respecting you as an adult. There's a fine line, and I think that's flirted with on both sides, whether it be in the corporate world, corporate America. And the reason why I'm referencing that is because I mean, that's the environment I've been in for years. Even in a military, they talk to you like your children sometimes. And when you get to the point that you're trying to rebuild yourself, or you finally figure out who you are, you're like, all right, cool, you know I kind of need the support system. That's when a lot of people start dropping. And for me, it was the opposite. That's where I ran into my previous relationship and everything. And in that, you don't, when you're figuring yourself out, you don't realize you don't realize the boundaries that you aren't setting. Like, you're not aware of that. So as I'm building and growing within myself, I'm realizing there's things that I've let slide that I shouldn't have. And in different facets of life, whether with friends, my family, or not my immediate family, extended family, or even in the job that I was in at the time too. A great company, but there was things that you just kind of let slide because you think, oh, the culture is not to say nothing, just let it ride. But sometimes, no, you gotta speak up and say something.
Yeah.
So what about you, man? Like, how have you, I know you've been doing a lot of growing, you've been talking about it on a lot of podcasts of how you've grown just over the year, man. So what about you? Have you experienced some of the similarities, differences? What has it been for you?
Yeah. So I mean, for me, it's been, well, let me start this way. Uh, I think when we talk about, or when we're talking about right now, disrespect and respect and things of that nature, I look at it as I was going through a process of how did I have enough respect for myself to allow certain things in my life to happen. And that's kind of where I had to, I know we talked about the growth, over the last times of the podcast, but also like even before the podcast, I had to start really, really evaluating. And it really came to me like more recently, like how have I always been respecting myself to allow certain things in my life to happen to me? And when I think about that, it's like between relationships, between friendships, intimate relationships, work settings, me sleeping with people, me doing these different things. So those are forms of self love, and all those things you have to have self love, and you got to love yourself. So when I look back at it, when I think about growth, like when I was sleeping with all these different girls, was I really respecting myself? Like, no, I was belonging to the streets pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
And
um,
that's why you got to be careful. And I'm not saying you had this, but people in general have to be careful who their group of friends are,
yeah,
because you could be disrespecting yourself in different ways, whether it be, whatever you deem it. Like for you, like for instance, sleeping around with just random, not respecting yourself, just not having standards for your own self, in
yeah.
essentially.
You know what the
Um,
crazy part is that as men, is uh, toxic of us because we, not all men, but most men be like, bro, you got to bang this girl, you got to do this, you got to do that. But like, are you treating yourself like a king, or even respecting your own body?
and and that's funny you said that, Brad. Let's touch on that a little bit, because and this goes back to a previous episode from season 2 when I said every man ain't a king and every woman ain't a queen, because you not throwing around that word. It's reserved for royalty, and royalty distinguishes themselves from everybody else.
But
So
go ahead. No, I'm listening.
yeah, so if you doing everything the village is doing, how you gonna call yourself a king or queen? You ain't doing nothing different.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to that, the sleeping around, I didn't think like this before, bro. This is not a mindset that I had previously. But the more reading I've done, the more experience I've had talking to older people, the more I realize it's not something that's necessary. But like, everybody will tell you, and everybody has their own path, but people would tell you, go out there and experience life. Yeah, okay, cool. But what a lot of people in my circle, in my previous circle, have meant by that is sleep with everything and anything and everything.
That's fair. I agree with that. I think that in my same circle, that was a very normality thing, and it wasn't something where it. And if you weren't doing it, then you're like, bro, what's going on with you? Like, you're all right. Let me check your temperature. You know what I mean? Like, not, but not realizing like the immaturity that it has put on us as putting pressure on other men. That's immature of our, excuse me, it's immature of ourselves to allow that and to associate with that, but it's also immature of um, the friend group to be able to surround yourself around those type of individuals. So I think that's when it comes to me talking about again, like respecting yourself, but also respecting the disrespect of like your boys when you're like, no, I'm not willing to do this. And if your boys are telling you like you gay, you this, you that, like because you taking a stand of who you want to be, then that's major disrespect.
And I never understood that that saying or whatever people would say, you're gay. And because I always think like, well, don't gay people have sex as well? Like, at first it was like supposed to be like some type of I guess, derogatory term for somebody who,
Mhm.
has standards. But then when you start thinking of how stupid that sounds, wait a second. So you're saying that gay people don't have, what are you saying, man? Like, and why are you so fascinated with who I choose to sleep with?
Exactly.
And when you start putting the onus on them, like, bro, you the one who was too engaged in my life, not me. I'm
Mhm.
content. But what I've also realized is two things. One, when you get to such a place where, and this goes for everything, even with family and stuff, when you get to such a place where, like you said earlier perfectly, self-respect, first of all, those shades, those blinders, those rainbow colored glasses, whatever you want to use, metaphor you want to use, are off.
Yep.
And then that's when you have to realize, okay, I need to set boundaries with this person, with this person. In that process, in that transition process, a lot of people they can't take it. So they drop themselves. They can't take being held to a standard.
Yeah, I agree with that. The crazy part is like as a person develops into who they are, you're gonna notice like you don't have to cut people off. People usually cut themselves off. Like you don't even have to do much a lot of times. Like it just naturally happens, or things start to expose themselves for what they are, who they are. I think that's the real thing when you get to such a place of self worth, and that's kind of what I think of when people are using all these terms. You know, like we just said, like king or queen, but also like high valued, or people that saying that they're truly like on their purpose, or all these other terms that are going around now. But I'm like, how can you do that when you ain't even respecting yourself yet? You
Exactly.
it
Exactly.
all starts with self value.
And that's the crazy thing, man. I one thing I do love seeing on social media is people who I've known either from high school or early years of college. As all of us do, we're trying to navigate our world in our generation, and the generation that's coming behind us have a unique experience with it because social media is heavily involved in that. So seeing somebody who struggled to find their identity and seeing the 180 they made over life experiences and everything, it's just such a dope thing to witness, bruh.
Yeah.
um and seeing the growth, because it's just, man, I remember when, even with people who I would do crazy stuff with, I remember when we do this now, none of us, the way we talk now, the conversations we have when we do have with each other are just so much, they're just so full of growth and progression forward. And it's just one of the things that's dope to see. But on to what you were saying with like the disrespect, when you start to set boundaries for you, this is and this is for all you listeners and viewers as well for the YouTube. There's gonna be people who's gonna try you because they're gonna have it. They're gonna have this fixation in your mind of who they believe you to be. You ever heard when you're trying to change somebody, be like, "That's not you. That's not you. You don't do that." And you're trying to better yourself, and it kind of cuts a little bit because you're trying to change, and you have people who you felt were close to you telling you to pretty much no, stay the way you are. And what makes it difficult for a lot of people in that process, and why a lot of people revert back to who they were, is because change requires you to be uncomfortable, and sometimes that means getting rid of people closest to you. And I'm just going to be completely transparent. I was trying to avoid really giving this subject any type of any more of my mental space than it has over the last couple of weeks. But I recently had to break up with my girlfriend, and for some time, it was just a lot. With respect to her, to not be able to defend her position on this, there was just a lot of things on both ends. But when one person is the only person willing to make those changes and correct their behaviors, and there's somebody that thinks that, oh, nothing I do is wrong, despite multiple conversations, it makes it difficult. And then that's when you got to sit there and realize, and this is not just for relationships, it's for jobs too. When you get to a point where you're at a crossroads, and that's where it was. That's where I was when I ultimately had to make that decision, because is, do I let this person keep continuing to disrespect me in my position, not just in her life, but my position just in society as a whole, or or do I just cut it off? And that's what I did.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that, brother. I know it's hard to be so open and transparent at times. You know what I mean? Like, especially when it comes to your relationship. Uh, I think it's easier said than done, when people are telling you like, "Hey, you got to do this or do that." Like, but the fact that you can, your experience and what I know about the situation, and even what you're sharing with the listeners, when you get to a point where you love yourself enough, have enough self value, and respect yourself enough, you don't want somebody to continue to disrespect you, in a relationship capacity, friendship, work, same thing. I mean, my personal experiences, I when I was at much more of a what they call scarcity mindset, I was in a relationship that I was allowing things that shouldn't have ever happened, like the total disrespect of talking to me a certain type of way. Um, when I'm trying to be the best person to the individual, and they would, talk to me crazy at times, but then the apologies after they did it. When you get to that point and you not fully like at the place where you need to
Mm-hmm.
be, and I wasn't, where I was allowing certain things to happen for an extended amount of time, but then I would kind of give them a pass, like, hey,
Yep. Yep.
like they're working on it, they're doing this, but you can't do that. And I'm talking from experience, like even me being someone who, like, knowing that I have options, um, knowing that I could be in a different relationship or be with different people, I still had that scarcity. So having that scarcity, as I say, mindset, that I was allowing those things to happen in a disrespect or etc. Uh, at first, I didn't realize that how disrespectful it was, and sometimes you don't when you're in situations. You're like, it's not really disrespect, but then afterwards, I start to be able to understand it. But even towards the end, I'm like, what the heck? Like, I ain't never allowed this in my life.
Yeah,
You know what
exactly.
I'm saying?
Because you start thinking like, hold up, and it just something that just clicks, and you just start going to different things, and you realize how much you let slide. And
Yep,
some of that is because too many of us go to other people for relationship advice or pointers, and then you have people like, oh no, you're just overthinking, and oh no, you're doing this. You might be overthinking a situation, but you're never actually overthinking a situation,
yep,
because nobody can tell you how you are to feel about something that happens.
true.
And that's one thing I realized too, which is why I completely, was just, this is my decision, because like you said, options are available, but when people think that you would never leave them, they take you for granted.
True.
And then you find out who people are in two different ways. You find out who they are when you no longer want to help them as far as a system with giving them money or whatever you've done in the past. You find out who people are.
I ain't never getting them. No, just kidding. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I'm just
I'm
saying
joking. I'm
shit.
messing with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't give people money either because I know what's gonna happen. I don't want unless I don't. I think that was one or two times, but that's because I could absolutely trust that person.
Yeah,
But for that's very rare for me to give somebody money. And I'm not talking about like $10. Something you
yeah,
here's $10. But if somebody's like, bro, I need $200, here's why. I'm be like, um, yeah, no, I can't do it, bro.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but back to that, man. It's just you realize different things, and people act out in their own way. Whether they take it to social media or whether they take it to if it's a job that they quit or were fired from that they should have quit. They take it to tagging a job, making all these type of negative reviews. It's different ways that people handle it, but that's how you really figure out who somebody is. And for me, in both the professional setting and in intimate settings too, intimate relationships and personal relationships, that's when I really found out who somebody is, or at least their maturity level.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I'm realizing that sometimes, like, for the person who is getting disrespected and the person who is doing the disrespect, sometimes it has to do with the history of who their parents were, their
Yeah,
geographic, their backgrounds. Like, if I've been in situations where I remember being with someone and they would like talk crazy at times, and even though I'd be like, look, you got to chill out, they were talking crazy because when I got more in depth into it, they seen that's how they parents talk to each other. That's how these dynamics, and that's one of the biggest problems too. With like when you think of like respect and things like that, if people watch other people get disrespected so long, they start to lose respect for them. I mean, if I had to watch you, Pat, Santiago, I watch somebody disrespect you all this time. Am I really gonna be like, man, I don't. Uh, I may, as a person, still have respect for you because I know who you are, but it's gonna make me be like, man, is that true? Like, does Patrick even have Santiago even have any personal respect for himself? Like to allow this to happen so long, as well as gonna make me lose respect for you allowing something like that to happen.
yeah, I definitely feel that, bruh, completely. For me, I didn't even think about that when I was reestablishing my standards and boundaries and everything with not only this but a couple of friends too as well. And it for me, it was just all about what I needed or wanted, and from uh, either a relationship or within a friendship and stuff. And they cut themselves out. To be honest, they just couldn't cut it. They couldn't make the team. And it sucks, but the best thing I did was do that and didn't look back, because when you look back, that's a sign of weakness sometimes, and especially in this specific situation would have been a sign of weakness.
Which which one you talking about?
My previous relationship,
Okay, okay.
it would have
All
been a
right, all right.
sign of weakness, because in for all my listeners and everything, it is weakness. It is, but it's because it's comfortable. If you with somebody, and I feel y'all, if y'all with somebody for 2-3 years and then like some transpires or something like that, and you break up, you got to make that decision. Is this for good, or we need to work this out? But that comes with those adult conversations, those effective communication and comprehension of that communication. If somebody only sees one part of the like you know that what was it, the three blind men, they tell them to go touch a different part of the elephant and each of them describe different things, describe the elephant in different ways. That's similar to people when things happen. Everybody sees perspective differently, and that's okay. That's not the problem. The problem is when those perspectives are discussed at on an open forum to try to resolve something, and somebody's just keen on I'm never wrong. And that, unfortunately, in my experiences, and y'all can feel the way you feel about this, that happens a lot with women towards men. And it is our fault again. We don't, a lot of us, if you, outside of, obviously the ones that I would cheat on, but I look at my parents' situation. I have never, ever experienced my mom disrespect her, respect my pops. Ever. I've never seen my pops disrespect my mom. Now they've gotten assertive with each other. That's different. I've seen them to be able to work out, and not just them. I've seen several other couples be able to work out issues like adults without the toxicity behavior and be fine. And we like to say, oh, the music doesn't influence us. Oh, these artists don't. Yes, they do. Because you got people referring to Cardi B and Offset as relationship goals. Come on, man. Like,
Yeah, that's wild.
you, you, and then men have so little respect for themselves that we would listen to other men tell us to just sleep with anything.
True.
And it's such a crazy thing to think about, bro. Like, it's such a transition. It, man, I know I'm like pausing and stuff, but it was just something that it was just such a flood of like information all at once when I really just kind of opened my eyes to, yo, I'm really no better than anybody else.
Hmm.
And I never thought that, but to actually tell myself, I'm not the man I want to be. I'm not. I'm letting this girl do or say whatever the hell she wants to and not even realizing it. Because the problem with me, bro, is I'm so laid back. Like a lot of stuff that should bother me just doesn't. That's an issue though, because that's also a sign of somebody who's avoiding confrontation without realizing it.
True.
And I never used to be that way. So I had to start realizing, and I had to start just checking not only her but other people. And then people, where this come from? Where is this? No, this has always been me. So that's been my serious growth over the last couple of weeks, man. Like I just, it's not that I don't give a damn, but I really just don't give a damn what other people got to say anymore. I don't, because everybody sees things differently. Everybody sees a lot of things differently, and I don't think people could comprehend to the same degree. Just like I can't comprehend different things from their perspective to the same degree as them, because we're different people. I could comprehend as much as my ability, or even that I allow myself to comprehend the situation. But yeah, for this one, it was definitely a growing learning experience, and I'm just moving forward with it. It sucks, bruh. It definitely does, keep it 100, but it's just one of those things where um it's just one of those things where it's just like, yo, it is what it is. And then when you see the response after you're the one to cut it off, and you obviously, I'm just gonna be 100. I'm not one of those people to like unfollow and block and do all that. That's just not me. I'm not gonna do that. You're gonna see me be great. If you don't want to see it, you can unfollow. People just start wilding, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that, brother. It is like that, man. Especially in relationships, maturity, development as a person. I mean, I think of some of the relationships that I've been in, and just looking at like who I am now compared to who they are, and some of my exes are doing pretty well for themselves. And I mean, it's not like I'm like missing them or not, you know what I mean? But it's just the growth. Sometimes some people take and some people don't, because I can say for my exes, I know that they all are doing pretty well for themselves. But I have talked to other people, and some other boys are like, man, these they still out there doing this, or they got even worse. So it just shows like the development, like who a person are. It's not your ex, I'm saying, but like the respect level of like who you are when you get to a certain point. You like, dang, sometimes you look back at it. And for me right now, I'm like, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't ever be with none of those people. I don't think that the people I was actually with were like horrible people. there's some messed up things that we both may have done in those situations.
Of
But
course,
I,
yeah.
but that's a maturity point where some people are like, and you're doing a good example, like you're not bashing her, and you know what I mean, like because you still have respect for yourself and still have respect for her, where you're like, look, there's some things that happen, but I had enough respect for myself and like moved on. Because some people don't even look at it like that. They'll be like, they even come on the show like, man, she was this and that. She was probably doing blah 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 blah, woo woo woo, like all these different terms. Like,
Yeah, G man, that's just not me because some attracted me to it. I really I'm glad you brought that part up actually. I'm from the philosophy is anybody who I date and stuff, I very rarely would say anything completely negative about their character to anybody.
yeah,
Because at some point something attracted me to them to make me want to pursue a relationship with them,
exactly.
whatever it was. So then me, just because it didn't work out, acting again, this is what a lot of men do too, and we're going to get into this part, over emotional, and then acting purely on emotions, that is never a good thing.
No,
It's good to be stoic, but it's good to know when to ask for help and to use emotions when it's appropriate. What I've noticed, and even because I failed at that too, your first breakup, you like, boom, bump this, bump her, blah, 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 blah. But then you start realizing, what does that solve? Especially if you guys get back together in a couple weeks, then you just look like a clown.
for real.
You both do. And bro, I know we've seen it on social media. I witnessed it. I seen it. I mean, but that's them. You know, I can't knock people for being them, but in my opinion, they look like clowns because when you resolve issues, and has become the norm for a lot of us, not too much in my inner circle, but I recognize it to be a norm. It's we express our feelings on social media cryptically.
True.
And this is just with everything. This doesn't just go to relationship. This is with everything. We're very cryptic. And then you have those people, not the attention seekers, but you have those people that don't have any other outlet but social media, and they're like, hey, I need help. And a lot of us will scroll past that, or we'll give a little, what is that, the little care emoji like, or we'll say, oh, stay strong, and then keep it moving. So one thing I've definitely learned and come accustomed to just over just what, roughly month and a half, is to honestly, and you can bleep this out or whatever, but I just really just don't give a I just don't give a damn about what people got to say anymore. And not from a way of I think I know it all, but I'm not going to let you influence my decision. You feel me? You going to think what you going to think, and I'm going to respect you for that. And if you got a problem, let's talk about it. Let's see if we can, have comment. Let's see if there's some middle ground there. And if there's not, let's respect each other differences, and let's move on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's how you have to look at life. So you're not gonna always agree with anyone in life. I mean, me and you know each other, and majority of the time we get along, but we have some disagreements all the time. That don't mean that they got to get all like back and
Exactly.
forth. You know what I mean? But but that's also when it comes to like that respect level and that maturity. Getting back into what we are just talking about. When that maturity and respect level, people start to look at things differently. Like you're not gonna be on social media talking crazy about your girl or your ex girl or even one of your guys or one of your homies. Like, come on, man. Like, respect yourself, respect that person, because in a minute you're gonna
Yeah.
be right back. I love you. You know what I
And
mean?
that's why you can't be acting off of that, bro. That's the exact reason you can't be acting off emotion. I'll tell the story back when I was still living out there in Chicago, and I was a part of this group, right? And I didn't go to the event, but I didn't have to go to the event to see exactly what transpired. So I was a part of this group, and there was an event that happened at a Airbnb, right? Some brothers, they got into it, yada yada yada, going off at the mouth, a bunch of yelling, oh, I'll do this to you, I'll do this, blah 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 blah. Right? Tell me why, man. I'm laughing, but I can't make this up, G. Tell me why, they go on Facebook and they start arguing with grown men. I want to reiterate, these are grown men, bruh. They go on Facebook and they arguing with each other. And because I'm attached to it, obviously I just get the notifications. So I'm like, what is going on? Then apparently, somebody threatened to fight the other person. Okay, cool, fight. Let's go get it done. Who wins, wins, and let it be. No, the dude left, and then they both was like three total, but let's talk about the other two. They both decided to get on Facebook Live and start talking about each
Wow.
other. But I can't, and I just sit there, I sit back and I didn't really think much of it because I try, as you know, and as you are saying, I try to just stay away from that stuff because if it don't concern me, you know, I keep it moving. It ain't got nothing to do with me, and I don't think I can resolve the situation. Why am I gonna put my 2 cents in there? You feel me? Now, if I think I can mediate it, yeah, sure, I'll say something like, let's see if we can like figure it out. But it just let me know as a society how weak we've gotten as men. And I, I know on the podcast I say some stuff, but I'm always like hesitant about. No, we're weak as men. As men overall, we're weak. We succumb to our sexual desires. That's why a lot of us would get the wrong person pregnant
For
and
real.
then leave them and then having that child grow up without a father. That's why we end up cheating on people who were probably the best person for us. And I can't really speak too much on women because I'm not a woman. I can say that they have their faults too, but from a guy's perspective, we have gotten so weak. We have succumbed to our sexual desires so easily. That's why you got girls who are going to do what they do. I can't knock somebody's hustle if they on OnlyFans and strippers and they bringing in 5,000 a night, 15,000 a month. I know two people that got OnlyFans accounts and they bring in stupid amount of money. And that's just because of how weak men are. You can't subscribe to something and then say the woman's a hoe. So man, we with the disrespect, it's a way to get your point across without like threatening to go upside a woman's head. Like I'll beat you, I'll do that. That ain't player. But you need to command respect without disrespecting your lady. And same thing with women. Y'all gotta stop listening to your homegirls, especially your single ones who can't keep a man about what you should do about your man. Tell them to shut the hell up.
Hmm.
Yeah, bro. This is about as raw, and I'm just gonna be all raw season 3, man. Like this is that free smoke segment. Like this is part of it. Like
Right.
I welcome all the smoke because I'm coming from a place with love. It's just I see how weak we are as men.
Yeah.
And there's a saying that's saying weak men create terrible times. I mean, look at the world today. It's not all to blame because of man, that'd be stupid. But if you realize when men were stronger within themselves, more sure of themselves, look how the world was.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things that go into it, like you said, like with men being quote unquote weak. I also think that the society we live in today that enables some of the like behaviors of um men. But I know
Explain
that
that. Explain that a little bit. When you said enabled some of the behaviors, I mean, what do you mean?
so I would say that like when I think of enabling, when we got a society that everybody gets a trophy. People don't, people don't have to work hard anymore as much. You still should be able to work hard, but what I mean is like nothing is a handout in life. You can't go to in life and cry about something and not be able to continue on. There's people that would rather go do a crime than actually get a job. You know what I mean? And I can understand certain circumstances. Uh,
Yeah,
being that I grew up in a bad neighborhood, I know you have.
yeah.
So
It's
I understand certain circumstances, but then you also have a lot of tendencies that are acting out of emotions when they doing some of these behaviors. So you hitting a woman because you weak, and other dudes are doing the same thing, and they like, yeah, well, I do this to my girl too. Like you have other men enabling that, like supporting those type of behaviors.
Exactly.
You have other men supporting the toxicity that consists of not getting educated. You have a consistent theme. I mean, of single mothers and society. When I said it, like is enabling it, like there's you look at all these men and you look at how so many of them may have grew up with fathers or may have not, but
Yeah.
the ones that have, some of them will go and not be fathers, and then some of them who have not had a mom or dad, these people choose to allow what other somebody else that they seen, like if they mom or dad wasn't, and they're like, oh, then I'm gonna do the same thing. Why wouldn't you want to be better? You shouldn't even want it those circumstances. You shouldn't want your kids to have the circumstances that you had. So when I think of like society, um, some people may say something, but then you got some women, like I know this is not all women. So I'm gonna be tread carefully when I say this, but I'm gonna be blunt. There's women out here allowing these dudes to come up in them when they are not even on top of their purpose. They're not even on. Look, man,
That goes to the
they're not
self-respect
on.
thing.
They not on the purpose. They're not even. Some of them be having a bunch of kids and they still be like dating these people. I'm like, bro, like, how you gonna be with somebody that's not taking care of their kids? You enabling them.
It's it's a self-respect thing on from a woman's side
Yeah,
too. Having family who have fell victim to that cycle, because it's a cycle, uh for sure. And it's just, you think this is all I'm worth, or you think this is how my life is supposed to be. I'm supposed to be with somebody just at this caliber, because this is all I know. um and people associate, obviously life, past experiences, what molds them. Because I have some friends who grew up without a dad, are some of the best men and fathers that I know.
hmm
And I've had friends who grew up with both parents, are some of just some of the laziest, most one of the worst people to meet. And I don't mean from a perspective too much. I mean more just like they just don't have their life together. They don't really care to figure it out.
yeah. And I think it's also um, the music, like you said earlier, like the music we listen to supports us being very toxic and very in the mindset of like, oh, you can go and like fuck this many girls, or you can go, excuse my language, you can go sleep with this many girls, you can go gang bang, you can go run the streets. So that toxic behavior and enabling that behavior by supporting us in the music that we listen to.
And
And
yeah, bro. And I don't want, everybody always try to say no, music and movies don't influence society. Yes, yes, it does. Because just think of how music changed and how movies have changed
yeah,
over time. And think about when the music and all that changed. Think about how society changed for better and for the worse. So people can't sit there and tell me music doesn't influence anything, because when you at the gym, there's a certain playlist you got, right? Because it pumps you up. When you drunk, especially when I used to be, out there with the Hennessy, there's a certain type of music I'll obviously gravitate to. So I'm tired of hearing people say, no, it doesn't affect. Yes, it does. Because if you take the second to not listen to it, or listen to more positive stuff, and I don't mean just specific movies, I mean even shows. Look at like most of the even innocent looking shows like Disney Channel shows. Most of those shows or movies, they don't have a mom or a dad.
yeah,
I think there's only one movie where they have both parents.
And there's so
And-
much research that says it's a lot of research out there, and if as listeners and viewers, if you have the opportunity to research, just Google research on music, because you'll see that there's research that says, like, if you listen to certain songs before you, like, on your way to work, or before you going to do this or that, that whatever you just was listening to is going to influence your mood, your behavior, um, in those the next thing you're going to do.
And exactly. And when I say this, I don't say, again, it's from a position of like tough love, of just love. I'm not gonna knock whatever you decide to listen to, but what you don't get to do is try to tell me that doesn't influence your behavior, because it does to an extent. Maybe not as severe as others, but it definitely does.
Yep.
It does. Studies have shown it. But do what you want. That's why I don't tell men how to spend their bread. I don't think you guys should be paying for OnlyFans accounts and stuff like that. But if that's how you want to spend your money, okay. But then don't turn around and say, "Man, I'm always broke." It's because the man is taking my money.
Yeah, making it.
No, it's because XX Ashley 32 underscore 416 is. I don't even
Respect
know.
yourself enough to get on. You shouldn't even be using your money if you don't have. Let me excuse me. Backtrack. If you don't have money and you living at your mom's house, you still not got your own place. You barely have any clothes on your back. You're not taking care of your kids. You're not taking care of responsibilities. I mean, me and Santiago don't have kids, but we can speak as men. If we did have kids, we're gonna be taking care of them. We're gonna make sacrifices. But some of you are out here fighting over PlayStation 5s and Xboxes and buying
Bruh.
Jordans, but not having enough respect for yourself and for your children, for your family, um, for your own well-being, that you're sacrificing your money to buy technology, to buy, what I mean, like material things. It's a form of disrespect and not self-loving yourself, if you're not taking care of yourself first. Some of you guys are overweight. You keep talking about you getting it, you want to get in the gym, but you're not. Love yourself enough to get in the gym, do the work. Men who are doing work are the ones that prosper. They're the ones who, some of you brothers who saying that y'all not getting the girls y'all want. Do the work, women will come. I'm not supporting doing it just for women, but I'm just saying, you're not getting the job you want to get. You're not doing the work to get that job, to elevate yourself, to get the money
Yeah.
you want. So do the work to get those things.
In here's the thing, fellas. This is to the guys. We love y'all, and that's the thing. We love the women who listen too. We appreciate everyone. And when we saying this, we're saying this because we've been there, and we both understand, and even Craig Mack understands how hard it is to take that first step. For my guys and even my ladies, if you trying to like look a certain way for you, um, or even your partner, it's okay to want to look good for the person you with. I don't know why that became such a big deal lately, but it's okay to want to look good for who you with. It's okay. Um, it shouldn't be the whole basis for it, but it's okay to want to I want my body to look right for my man. I want my body to look right for my woman. Ain't nothing wrong with that at all. You feel me? But don't be hard on yourself. If you get to the gym one day, you get there and you can't go there, just keep being consistent. If you got to start with just going to the gym 5 minutes, or jogging, or doing push-ups at home, some simple. Just start small and build from there. As far as reading, to kind of better yourself on that regard. If you want to read more, read like 2 or 3 pages. Don't go there and try to read a chapter. Build these small habits. There's a book called Atomic Habits, and I've been listening to that on repeat on the audio for the last week. And one thing he says, and it does work, is instead of trying to start something and go all up into it, ease yourself into it. So what he means by that is, like I was saying, because these aren't my words, but this does work. Read 1 or 2 pages of the book. Leave it alone. Don't read anymore. Come back same time. Read 2 more pages. Come back same time. Maybe read 4. eventually you'll really start getting the habit of where you become an avid reader. Same thing with going to the gym. Do what works for you, because at the end of the day, everybody has the genius, and this isn't BS. Everybody has this genius level potential to do more and be more than they are. The problem where most people don't reach that is just laziness. Focus on the wrong thing. Like Javon said, on materials thing, you got people in that Popeye's chicken sandwich. Somebody died over a chicken sandwich. Come on, like a human life is worth less than a chicken sandwich. And obviously, I'm not saying any of y'all stabbed the person, but that's where we got to do better. We got to be on our purpose. Women, y'all should not be letting no dude shoot up the club if he ain't got his stuff together. Because then if he chooses not to be in the kid's life, that's not his problem. That's yours, because you have to watch who you're sleeping with just as much as men do. It's a different story, obviously, if somebody portrays to be something they're not. And that's why you got to be careful. And this goes for both men and women. You don't have to go in too fast too soon. Just be careful, have self-respect, and y'all be good. This is just it's a leveling up type of thing.
So that's been us. I mean, we'd love to hear y'all examples of how you respecting yourself. We want to get some workout videos. Send us some things that you doing over the next 90 days, next couple weeks. We just really want to see people really like leveling up on them on themselves, but also showing that like respect for yourself in any situation. If you got a new job, tell us you got a new job. We want to shout you out. We want to encourage people that are doing the right things.
Yeah.
King Javon, I'm out. Santiago.
Yeah, we definitely want to curse. Send emails, send whatever. If y'all going through stuff, you don't need to go through it alone. We've all have different experiences and can help in different ways. Come on a show if you want to just talk, if you want to socialize. We're here for y'all. For me, what has helped me really become affirmed in who I am as a person is my spirituality. The more I focused on God and the more I continue to, the more I'm realizing things that I don't need to be around, whether it's for a time period or whether it's for the rest of my life, are starting to leave. And yeah, it's some of that is hard as hell to let go, but it'd be worse if I was to stay. And that's something I encourage y'all. I'm sure I'm not the one out there who is struggling with letting some go or struggle with letting some go. I'm sure some of you guys are too, with whatever that may be. I encourage y'all to just take whatever steps, and only you guys know that, to let it go. And last thing, and Javon, I know you said you're out, but I definitely do want your opinion before we wrap up. I saw a tweet. I was going to say this earlier. And, when we were talking about self-respect and, having your own, standards, it's almost like men aren't allowed to have standards anymore, because while some of it is our fault, it's also this whole everything a man does that's opposite of what we approve of is misogyny. And it's like, no, they just have standards just like you do. They have preferences just like you do. Um, so the tweet I saw was a guy asked his, I think, girlfriend, maybe fiance, girlfriend, not to do the busted challenge, right? He just said, hey, I would rather you not do it. She did it. He was like, okay, cool. Broke up with her. They said who was wrong and who was right. I'll go with me. My opinion is, actually, I'm gonna hear your opinion first.
I'm gonna put me in the spot first. I guess I don't know the circumstances, but speaking of just on the basis of like breaking up over the doing a challenge, is he wrong? Nobody's obligated to stay. I've learned that like everybody always has the free will to be able to see if this situation is for them or not. I've been in situations where I had multiple conversations with someone about kind of, I don't want to say my expectations, but understand their expectations. They understood like how
Yeah.
I'm, and so when those expectations wasn't met, it wasn't that I thought they was a horrible person, but I
Of
realized like
course.
they're not for me. And
Exactly.
not the person that I want to continue to be with. And and I wasn't even, I was in a dating stage, you know. So understanding that they're not a bad person, but this is not someone that I can see myself with long term.
Okay.
And I think I look at it the same way with the tweet. Like, if y'all come to a certain compromise and I feel like I'm not comfortable with certain things that's going on, no one's obligated to stay. You know what I mean? It's a choice.
Yeah. For me, I read the comments and stuff, but I'll say my opinion. He's not wrong. if he, and this is where I really need women to understand. And I'm coming from this again from a place of love. If a man has an expectation and he tells you that, and he tells you what that consequence of that expectation, you still have control of what choice you make. Your choice isn't taken away. You just know what it would be based on if you make this decision or not. So there's times where, in my personal experience or indirect experience, where it's just like, well, you're taking my choice away. You're trying to make, no, nobody's trying to do nothing. I'm just saying, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do. And it's not a threat. It's just so you can understand the consequences and you can't, well, I didn't you can't use that. So for me, he wasn't wrong and she wasn't wrong for doing it. It was her choice. And then he set the expectation. And for me, we can say, oh, I do this for empowerment and stuff like that. You do that for attention. Because I can get, and I'm going to say this way. If it's not for attention, if you had 2 likes on something, would you keep it up? And I mean specifically with these type of challenges. I'm not saying like if you just post a selfie or whatever.
I mean, I didn't know if he was asking me because I'm not a woman.
No, 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 man. This
I
is why
know,
I'm
bro. I know.
interested.
I'm
But
okay.
but that's just my thing. I don't think either of them were wrong. I think she made a decision. She knew what she was getting into by making that decision. She wanted violent attention from social media, and he said, "Oh, okay." She made that decision. I'm gonna make mine, and he just left. It doesn't make either of them a bad person. He just wanted something that she couldn't provide or didn't want to, and vice versa. She wanted somebody who didn't care. He wanted somebody that did care.
Yep. And that's again, everybody's different.
Everybody's different. Everybody has their preferences, but I think people, it's only one preference that's utilized and that's approved, and that's people who let people do whatever they want. It's like for me, I personally, you couldn't tell me anything to make it make sense why you need to do that challenge. You got a vice president that's a woman and a person of color in office. You Our black women hold the most advanced degrees. We have more women who are either potentially CEOs or going to be or are CEOs than at any point in history. Um, we have several countries that are being effectively run by women, i.e., New Zealand. So do not, and I challenge any feminist at this point, and I'm not talking about feminists who actually believe in equality, but do not sit there and tell me that that is some empowerment move you made. There's nothing empowering about that, and no guy thinks that. We're just like, oh, dang, that looks good, and that's
Yeah,
it.
but
Nobody thinks it's empowering.
some guys do. That's some small percentage do. That's it.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
some
we both
small.
know. Yeah. We talk about some simps.
Oh yeah, the Simps. Yeah, they,
I'm just kidding.
bro. Speaking of that, I saw a few comments. You were absolutely right. Let me retract what I said. Thank you, Javon. There are a small percent of the guys who think that's empowering. Because I saw some of the comments and they were wow. But I also saw some disrespectful comments from men who were completely on the side of misogyny. And I'm like, yo, bro. I mean, that doesn't make her like they're quick to call a girl a hoe for doing that, and that doesn't make them a hoe.
No.
And that's where I think the disconnect lies with a lot of men who, not all, but a lot of men who disagree. Like, it doesn't make them a hoe but there is a need for validation and attention, and I wish women would just be honest with that.
That's fair.
That's the only thing. So for y'all who are like, man, is he like for this and for that? I'm gonna make this very clear. I'm all for anything a woman wants to do or thinks she can do. But I'm also for people having expectation and standards. And if a man has a certain expectation and standards, either you want to meet them or you don't. But you don't get to bash the man if you decided not to meet the expectations he set. The same way he doesn't get to bash you if you did if he didn't meet an expectation or standard that you set for him. And that's why until we get that, until we understand that together, you know, we're always going to be butting heads with each other
Hmm.
because it's hard for both sides to really listen. And speaking of that, then so we could wrap up. That tweet actually had a lot of interesting comments. I took about 20 minutes to kind of gauge what's the responses. Interesting. And I looked on a profile based on people's responses. So the women who were for the guy breaking up with him, I'm gonna have to be very careful how I say this. They just their profile resembled something different than the women who were for it. Is how I will put it. Not better, not worse, just different. Um, there was a lot of comments with the women who were for the guy breaking up saying pretty much what I was saying, that it's not an empowering thing, it's just an attention thing. And pretty much just saying she still had the choice to make it. He didn't take away the choice from her. He just told her what he would do. Then you had men who were again on both sides. You had men, oh no, let them do whatever they want. I see that's the problem right there. But then you had men who were just completely misogynistic. Oh man, she probably does. Like, no, bro, that doesn't make her a hoe. I don't know where this line talk about where there's no gray area. There's only black and white with a lot of situations, and there's just isn't. That's not how life works because everybody's built different. Everybody handles things differently. Everybody, everybody just processing things differently. So me reading the comments, I was really trying to gauge like, is society just lost? And I feel like we are. I mean, I myself, I'm still lost and figure things out. But one thing I'm no longer going to be is timid about where I stand with something. Like for me, to wrap up, we love y'all and we just want to see y'all progress and we want to see y'all, get to whatever goal that it is for yourself. Everybody's different. If your goal is to start at corporate and work your way up the ladder and control the company, go for that. If your goal is to be the first woman to, I'm not sure if this already happened, but to like control NASA, go for that. The first woman to, make a really big, again, I'm gonna take some time to read up some of the other stuff that I don't know with women as far as stem cell research and all that, or STEM, not stem cell research, but STEM because that's a male predominantly field still. But if your goal is to do that, go for it. Don't let anybody stop you. If your goal is to just, if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, if you don't want kids, all of that's okay. And then for men, same thing for you. Just make sure what you're doing is bettering the world in some degree and bettering yourself and the people around you. That's all at the end of the day to measure. What can help a lot is having some sort of spirituality, wherever that may be for you. And that's all I gotta say. Just I'm want to be real and transparent this season, like I just do, so people can know where I stand. Because the busted challenge, the silhouette challenge, it ain't necessary. If you want to do it, go for it, but it's just not necessary in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate it, Santiago. We appreciate the vulnerability. We appreciate the conversation this evening, brother. Man, it's been great, bro.
Yeah, it has. And I appreciate you, man. I appreciate all of y'all. We the runs who've been rocking with us since the beginning, and even the new ones, we love y'all. Again, send us, like Javon said, send us anything. Either ways to critique the episode, things you want to hear, things you haven't heard. Um, or positive things that's going to you. If you want us to just kind of like mention you, if you're struggling with something or whatever, you don't have to come on, but you can share it with us. We'll have a segment for that where we kind of address how to, the best way to handle different things. We're here for y'all. So don't be scared. Reach out. We won't use your names if you don't want to, and we're here for y'all. So Santiago in a little Spanish. I'll do right now is hasta pronto. But yeah, I just wasn't feeling it earlier, man. You know why?
yeah, I got you. So we out. It's been the City Gents.